Mm. Good night, everybody. Well, good morning. It is 1:31 a.m. And today, oh god, I just got finished with a bag of Doritos that I told myself I wasn't going to ham in an hour. Ended up doing it anyway, so one self-promise later, and I'm all bloated and shit. Anyways, I got my watered down, Fireball whiskey, and today I wanted to talk about a game that's very near and dear to my heart, The House of the Dead. Now, I've been noticing all around the place that in no place is there, videos on YouTube that tackle the subject of, like, the lore or the stories of the games behind, the House of the Dead series. Because my big issue with it is that the games are looked at, but they're always looked at like, oh yeah, this did this and this did that. It's never like, they go into detail about the games and what went on in them and the story behind it. Because, in my personal opinion, The House of the Dead is just as good as, let's say, lost my train of thought. Just as good as Resident Evil. But today I just wanted to go over, like, pretty much the storyline pertaining to all of these games. Essentially, we're going to begin off with the first one here, and I'm going to tell the story of Red Dead. I'm going to tell the story of the House of the Dead in chronological order. That means the games are not going to be in order, because it goes. Also, I'm avoiding the spin-off games, the joke games, the typing of the dead, that bullshit. And I will be leaving out Overkill, just because Overkill's, it was newer. I'm not sure in Japan how close that is to the original canon. And it's a very off-the-walls prequel. So, if you want House of the Dead Overkill to be part of this timeline, then still got Doritos things on my hands. If you want House of the Dead Overkill to be on this, just assume it happened all the way at the beginning of this timeline. First thing we're going to jump into here is House of the Dead, the original 1. In that one, Rogan receives a call from his fiancée. I believe it's his fiancée, Sophie. And she says, yo, I'm a researcher at, this guy Kyrian, this mad scientist's house. And he let a bunch of zombies out and he went fucking crazy and secluded himself in his lab. And these undead things are roaming around killing everybody. So Rogan and G, naturally being AMS agents, AMS being a, anti-terrorism secret organization. It's essentially just like the FBI, except on a global scale. Like a much more global scale. Anti-terrorism and all that. Well, canon of the series, they rescue Sophie. They keep leaving her. Either she turns into a zombie at the end, or they leave her fate unknown. Based on the third game, though, you pretty much are told, yeah, Sophie survives. So Rogan and G go there to save Sophie and figure out what the fuck's going on with Kyrian. They find Kyrian and he becomes obsessed with life and death, and he's a geneticist. And he's pretty much created this thing called the Magician. He creates a bunch of these creatures, basically. I don't even know what he uses. Like, they mention that it's like a type of science, but they don't tell you if it's like ancient alchemy or some shit like that. Basically, a long time ago, apparently these artificial, half machine, half biological humanoid things existed that could bring, like, an end to the world. And Kyrian, along with some other undesirables, basically found out a way to recreate them, and then they want to unleash them upon the world to basically revert the world into a primal state. I mean, each of the guys is given a different motive. One wants to destroy the world, one wants to rule it, one wants to revert humans because he thinks they're ruining the planet. Anyways, Kyrian goes fucking nuts, awakens his creation, the Magician. This is Magician, yo, what's up? You work for me now. Magician goes, fuck that. Kills Kyrian, and then engages in battle with AMS agents Rogan and G, who swiftly kick its ass by shooting it to death. Doesn't matter, all the fireballs, all the energy beams, and all the telepathic powers in the world cannot stand up to 2 AMS agents with a couple of revolvers. Just can't be done. Or did they use regular pistols? I don't know. You get a variety of guns in the games. Anyways, that's the first game. Second game, we are taken to Venice, Italy, where this crazy fucker by the name of Goldman, who is an expert on the genome theory, which is like the only bit of information we get really on his background. I think he owns DBR or DBH. He basically runs some fucking company that's in a bunch of different shit, and he unleashes his own zombies upon Venice. So, James Taylor, 2 more AMS agents in this next one, James Taylor and Gary, I forgot his last name, get sent to Venice, Italy to basically clean up the zombies, figure out what the fuck's going on with Goldman. While they're there, they find G from the first one, Agent G. He's downed, he's in pain, he's bleeding out and shit. Doesn't look or sound like he does in any of the other games, which I always found kind of like, irked me a little bit, but hey, it's whatever. It was the 90s. While in Venice and fighting the threat of the new undead, James and Gary eventually come across other AMS agents, Harry Harrison and Amy Crystal. They basically team up, they trade information, shit like that, and eventually James and Gary are led to the top of Goldman's building where they confront Goldman, but are subsequently, is that the word here? Subsequently? Basically, they're immediately interrupted in order to fight the Emperor, I believe it's called. Now, the Emperor is kind of like the Magician, except he's made of liquid and he could transform into any of the 3 to 4 monsters that you previously fought in the game. He could shapeshift. And it's only after defeating, I believe, each form, or something to that effect, that you finally kill him, and then Goldman goes, oh, you may have defeated the Emperor, but there are successors. There are other people who are doing what me and Kyrian did, haha. And they die. He jumps off the building and kills himself. Because, fuck being taken into prison by the AMS. This whiskey is kicking the shit out of me. Now, normally, we've gone through House of the Dead 1, House of the Dead 2. Normally you think House of the Dead 3 would come along, but unfortunately, no. That is not where this timeline goes. Instead, we are actually going to skip to House of the Dead 4. That takes place, I believe, of 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, a couple of years after number 2. In this one, I believe it's James Taylor teams up with new rookie AMS agent Kate Green in order to stop some bomb that's gonna go off in the world. Basically, it's this whole terrorist plot that Goldman hatched before he died, and after he died, he planned it to automatically, all the wheels to, set into motion by the end of it all. So that way, even if he was dead, these nukes would still launch and, blah, 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 blah. So, new recruit Kate Green and and the AMS agent from House of the Dead 2, James Taylor, they team up and they fight their way through a whole bunch of zombies, eventually come to Goldman's office. They're trapped in, by the way, the AMS base in Italy. It ends up getting overrun with zombies. They end up trapped there. They have to escape. They go to Goldman's building from House of the Dead 2, go up to the top, and they're able to... They do end up stopping the detonation, thank goodness. Unfortunately, James Taylor has no choice but to activate this detonation thing on his little PDA, because he carries a PDA around him the whole game. and sets his PDA to self-destruct, turns to Kate and goes, "Don't ever lose hope, we're gonna win this war," whatever the hell. And then he jumps into the new threat, which is, I don't know what the fuck the new one was called. It's like this giant humanoid bug thing that can control ice. But cool design, but no matter how much they shoot it, no matter what the fuck they do to it, it just doesn't die. So James activates his PDF, self-destruct, jumps into it, dies, and Kate Green goes, "Oh no, oh no." So she leaves, figuring that their war against these people who keep bringing up the undead isn't gonna fucking end. And then next we are brought to the newest game, actually. I thought we were going to go for number 3 because, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. No. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Scarlet Dawn that just came out. And Scarlet Dawn takes place, I believe, 3 years after House of the Dead 4. So the timeline's all fucked up here. So it goes 1, 2, 5... How many games are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 3. That's the timeline. So, getting right back to Scarlet Dawn. Scarlet Dawn picks up where Kate Green and James Taylor left off. James Taylor dying, and Kate Green now partners with with James's younger brother. I believe his name is Ryan Taylor. And I believe he dies in the next game. Okay, anyways. Kate Green and Ryan Taylor now, not James Taylor, Ryan Taylor's younger brother, team up and they go to this place called the Scarecrow Manor to fucking meet some people. I don't know. They're looking for information on this secret group. Apparently this secret group is having this big party, big meeting thing. And suddenly this dude, Thornheart, unleashes zombies on everybody. Mainly because he knows that AMS is there and he wants to wipe AMS out. Also, he has a plan to detonate this thing that is going to... They don't even say that it's really a bomb. It's more or less just a thing that's going to revert mankind to a primitive state. Only I think he wants to... He doesn't... It was different. Curian wanted to, I think, just wipe out mankind. Goldman wanted to revert people to a primitive life form. Because he thought they were threatening the planet. And now this new guy, Thornheart, his whole shtick is like, oh, I want to see humans in the next form of their evolution. So he decides to summon this giant-ass, skeletal, winged, fucking titan colossus of a thing called the Moon. By the way, all the bosses in the series are named after tarot cards. Really cool. So he attempts to summon this thing called the Moon, and he ends up succeeding. I don't know what the fuck happens to him. I think it like squishes him or something. Either that or he becomes the Moon. The animation, I was having like trouble watching it. Because this game is almost fucking impossible to find. But in Scarlet Dawn, James Taylor ends up taking a metal rod to this mammoth of a creature, shoves it in his forehead. Lightning comes down, zaps the moon, or zaps this creature, kills it, and then Kate Green and James Taylor are like, wow, we prevented another fucking worldwide, hullabaloo. And it pretty much leaves off as all the other games leave off. This war isn't going to end. There's still a struggle, blah, 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 blah. And now we skip to number 3. And number 3, it's weird because all these other games in the House of the Dead series came after the fact. And they all, build a world chronologically before the third game. But in the House of the Dead 3, it pretty much tells you the world goes to shit. The world does eventually fall one day. Everything goes post-apocalyptic. Shit does not end up going too well. So, the long and the short of it is, the world goes into apocalyptic state. James Taylor, along with a whole bunch of other people, I believe Rogan also, are all in this genetics lab fucking in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. and they're pretty much just trying to hold back the zombies while working on something or other. While there, remember Rogan from the first game? Hasn't even really been talked about or mentioned since. Turns out he had a daughter, Lisa. And Lisa was sent by her mother, Sophie, told you she didn't die in the first game, to retrieve her father, Rogan, who was at this base with Ryan Taylor, James Taylor's brother. And she teams up with G. And by this time, the AMS is like disbanded. They're not around anymore. The end of the world pretty much fucked everything up. So G and that Lisa Rogan now go, and they go to the middle of this lab in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, this giant ass building, underground, bunch of shit. They go there, they fight their way through a bunch of creatures, and they eventually find that Curian has reincarnated himself into this electric humanoid that controls this big metal wheel of shit, calls himself the Wheel of Fortune. Or the Wheel of Fate or some shit. Turns out that the another person at this big old reunion event is Curian's son, whom you haven't heard about for at least 4 games out of the 5-game series. Depending on which games you count as part of the universe. Or the main storyline. But turns out Curian had a son who had an illness. He tried to cure his son. Didn't work out so well. As far as Curian's mentality went, Curian went fucking nuts. His son was eventually cured and grew up, and nobody really talked about him or knew about him. Long and the short of it is, Lisa, who's like the daughter of Rogan, and Curian's son Daniel, I believe, who's the son of Curian, the fucking villain from the first game. The two of them team up to defeat Curian in his new form, the Wheel of Fortune, or the Wheel of Fate, whatever he called himself. They kill him, and apparently killing him, ended, that's it. All the successors. Apparently there was only, 3 dudes who really wanted to bring about the end of the world via zombies, and that was Curian, Goldman, and Thornheart from Scarlet Dawn. After all 3 are dead... Oh, also... Each ending has there's always a secret ending to each of the games where there's a limping man. Yeah, it was finally revealed that it was Thornheart, who apparently died years ago, and then he didn't die, and then he's back, and then he willed himself back to life, and he learned how to create zombies and a bunch of horse shit. Basically, he's the limping man. I always thought, personally, that it was AMS agent Harry Harrison, because he received, an injury in the second game, in which he was using he was limping and shit. I'm I thought that made way more sense. It would have been cooler, because it would have been an AMS agent, someone on the inside, trying to cause these things. But anyways, back to number 3. Daniel, the son of Curian, and Lisa, the daughter of Rogan from the first game, team up, kill Curian as the Wheel of Fate or the Wheel of Fortune, save the world, and basically the game just ends with everyone heading out, going okay, we're going to push towards the future, woo! And then Curian, or Daniel Curian, turns around and he's all Father, I promise, if humans don't, improve, don't step up their game, don't quit with this shit, I will come back and I will finish your work, essentially. So pretty much it leaves the whole series open for if humans, in Daniel's eyes, don't get their shit together this second time around, after the fucking apocalypse has already hit, he's gonna, unbeknownst to everyone else, wipe everyone out. So, yeah. And that's really the whole series. Is very simple. It's just a bunch of crazy dudes one day decide, yo, let's use this forbidden technology or whatever the fuck to try to bring about these titans of old. And really they don't even go into much detail about what these things that the people fight are. They're just android like biological androids almost. Like they do have like flesh and bone and conscious and shit, but they're essentially like these godlike beings that can be like resurrected, and if you kill them, you can just bring them back again anytime you want. I mean, the magician's in almost every one of the fucking games. He gets brought back more than any antagonist. Probably because his design is so damn cool. But I really dig the bosses in the House of the Dead franchise, mainly because you don't know what the fuck half of them are, especially the humanoid ones. It's like you want a closer look, because when you see them, they're bouncing around on screen, and you're shooting at them, and they're firing fireballs and telepathic rays at you and shit, and you're just like, can you just like stay in one spot? I actually want to like look at your character design. But in my personal opinion, Sega being Sega, I think they really fucked their series, because anytime a House of the Dead game comes out, it's always on fucking arcade. It's never for console. And who the fuck is gonna go out and buy an arcade cabinet other than like, arcades or bars? But specifically, what bar owner like has such an intense love for House of the Dead that he would go out and spend a couple, 100 or 1,000 on a House of the Dead arcade cabinet? Unless they were a diehard fan, I don't see that happening. The average person, I don't see that happening. But it's bold. They only release it for fucking... They don't even have it, like, they don't have it online. They've released some of the games. They had... This is what pissed me off. For the Wii, they released House of the Dead part games 2 and 3. That was the only way I was able to play number 3, was on the Wii. I had 2 and 1 for the Saturn, Sega Saturn. I had it for other systems. All on disc. But I feel like the series they don't make it that readily available to fucking anybody. You always gotta go out of your way, go far out of your way to locate it, find it, and then play it. Same thing with Dark Escape 4D. Why don't you just make it more accessible? If that's like the problem, if your sales are down and that's why you don't make these games, why don't you put it on platforms that people actually play? Like, I don't understand the mentality behind this. But that's the House of the Dead. And honestly, that is why Resident Evil kicks the shit out of them. Resident Evil's on every fucking console you can imagine. Especially now. But in my opinion, the series are pretty much on par as far as story, characters, and all that go. Maybe not characters. You care more for the characters in Resident Evil. Even though the newest Resident Evil like completely confused the shit out of me. But yes, this has been my in-depth look at the House of the Dead series. The story, at least. And, yeah, I hope it was informative. Hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm fucking far gone. I don't know if I'm so tired or if I drank too much of this. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully I'll be either more awake or more sober. Folks.